Hello there, John here. I've just stopped off on my drive to come and spend some time standing on this dam and kind of be in this countryside for a few minutes, just taking a bit of space for myself. And I thought I'd make a video about how we can approach sort of maybe difficult times in our lives, or when we are sort of around other people who are going through sort of difficulties or ill health in themselves, because without being able to say too much, this is a situation that I'm around with somebody at the moment, and entering into somebody else's world of difficulty, shall we say, kind of has a pain body around it, and it affects you on a human level, no matter what, no matter your level of consciousness or awareness or whatever. If you are to genuinely sort of be with another person, or to meet things within yourself, and both, then if we are in if we have a set of strategies in our mind, or sort of we're working from an ideology or something like that, then we're not really meeting ourselves, and we're not really meeting the other person. And I don't know about you, but in my life's experience, all I've really wanted is to be met in a true way, particularly at more difficult times. And I think the same is true of everybody. So if we're not in the present moment, if we're not really in life, then we're not really in life, We're not capable of meeting the other person with love. We meet them with our ideas, and while our ideas may have merit, they don't connect properly, and they can feel like we're forcing something. And we can do this with ourselves as well. We can be sort of forcing ourselves to do something, trying to change, trying to get healthy, whatever, making ourselves, rather than being present with what is. Which doesn't mean to say that you kind of swallow all this kind of the story that's kind of coming into the mind, but you're just present with what is at this moment, and sort of feel the life in that, So something I find the most effective is what I call the meditation on the life in the body, and this brings presence very, very quickly. And meditation is in no way a cerebral exercise. It's not an intellectual thing. It has very little to do with the mind, and it's all to do with the true space of the heart. And the life in us is our existence at the most honest and authentic level, because we come from life. Everything comes from life, and you can feel that in your body. So perhaps, even now, you might want to just allow yourself to feel the life in your body. And you can notice that the mind is moving, and you can notice sort of your emotions. And it's not that we try to push them away. There's this idea sometimes in meditation that we have to force silence or change something. And that way we're not even meeting our own emotions or our own thoughts. We're just coming from an idea that's in the mind to try and change it to another state. But when we come to the feeling of life, and it might just be as warmth in the body, or it might be as that kind of sort of silence that comes before the senses. And you've got to make sure that it's not your head sort of doing an impression of it, that it's just sort of throughout. You feel yourself just kind of come into the present moment. And if we can do this with another person, say somebody who's ill, or somebody who's having a difficult time, rather than offering our ideas and trying to fix things and our problem solving and our conversation as currency, which may or may not be useful. It's our beingness that's of true use. And it's not really even of use, it's just that this is how we actually meet each other. We meet each other in being. And perhaps you can feel this even now, even through this video, the energy. You know, one reason I like video so much is that you can feel the energy of things in video, and you know whether they're true or not. So perhaps you can even just feel this now, if you're allowing yourself to be in presence, and I am. And you know, as I stand here by the water and the trees and all the pylons and the clouds, sort of the life in me is the same as the life here. There's no separation between self and other. And if we meet another person in this way, then the love that we are is just there. And in our own bodies, notice how positive this feels in the body. You know, in Buddhism, they call this shunyata, or emptiness, but it's not a word that I like very much, because emptiness we can take in a kind of nihilistic sort of way. If we deny the reality of our incarnation, then we miss the reality of our incarnation. And yet, if we come at it through the objects of the mind, we miss the reality of our life as well. And so we have to meet in another way, and that's just at the level of presence. So we can, you know, enter into situations where our mind, you know, when things are difficult, our mind will kind of generate all sorts of stuff and fears and anxieties and worries. And if we can just drop down to the level of energy and life in the body, then we'll feel ourselves as part of all things. We feel ourselves genuinely with the other person, and that person will feel like they've been met. And there's no maintaining, there's no technique, there's no pushing of any agenda. There's only you and I, or I and I. And yeah. So maybe you could try this at work. You try it with somebody when they're ill. Try it on your own, and perhaps you might even be able to feel kind of like a space around the sense of life in you, you know. And that space in old Hinduism, that's what they would call Brahma consciousness. That feeling of the individual life they would call Atma or Atman. The space around us, you know, Brahma consciousness. In the West, we would maybe call that God or the source or the life. And it's just so beautiful. I mean, words don't do any justice, so I have to use some words, but they just don't do any justice to the reality of us and the beauty of us. And if we just begin to sit like this, if we begin to work like this each day, in moments when we're sitting in traffic, or you know, in the post office queue, or we arrive home to our partner and we're tired, you know, or we arrive home to ourselves, and we just, you know, don't get too special about it, just feel the life in our bodies and allow ourselves just to kind of enjoy that life, because it's just here. We're just here. We're not a technique that we have to do to improve ourselves, you know, and then one day we'll break through and everything will be fine, and we have to get rid of certain things before we can be whole. We are whole, and life in us is whole, no matter how ill we are, no matter how old we are, no matter how young we are, no matter our richness or our poorness, whether our education or non-education. Life is whole within us, and we all can feel that without any effort whatsoever. In fact, we have to use massive amounts of effort to keep ourselves in what I call object consciousness, in our ideologies and our belief systems and things like that. So you'll notice then perhaps that when you begin to feel the life in you, that you perhaps maybe don't identify with these other things so much, but that's for you to discover. You discover who you are. You know, there's no point some guy on a video telling you, or in a seminar room or whatever, in a workshop or a meditation class, telling you who you are. That's not what I'm here to do. All I can do is offer what my life has shown me as I live aligned with truth in myself, and perhaps that's can be an inspiration for somebody else out there who is working with the same material, or you think you're kind of going mad kind of knowing this stuff, but actually here's another little human being sort of saying something that resonates with you, you know. That's all that this channel is for, is just to hopefully be an inspiration maybe to one other person, you know. And if that, then that's wonderful. And if not, then it's just here for when somebody comes across it. So I'm going to love you and leave you. If this is your first time on this channel, then welcome, and please hit the subscribe button and stick around for a bit and see if you like what we're doing here. It's usually me just talking like this, not fast edits of things and strange noises and all that sort of stuff, and memes and stuff like that. I'm just trying to find a bit where we're not blinded by the light, but maybe that's it, we're just in the light. And yeah, and you know, if you're a subscriber or you're just subscribing, hit that notification button, and then every time I post a new video, you'll be notified of it, and that helps with YouTube and getting the video seen and things like that as well. Maybe try this and leave us a comment down below of how you felt getting on with that. And yes, you're going to notice there's loads of content in the mind. You're going to notice that, you know, all your feelings are moving, and that, you know, you've carried so much stuff for so long, and there's all these stories and there's fears and all sorts of things. And we're not trying to push those things away. We're not. As we move into life more, as we align with life more, just by simply feeling life within us, and then feeling the space that life comes from, we naturally sort of begin to transcend the difficulties, or we naturally see them for what they are, and then perhaps we don't involve ourselves in the same way, or instead of coming at them reactively, we come at them responsively, you know? So, and it's not a knowing, it's not a technique, it's not a forcing, it's a loving meeting of ourselves over and over and over again. You have a beautiful rest of your day. I'm going to just sort of hang out here for a few more minutes with the water and the sky and the trees and the pylons. I love pylons, you know, going off into the distance. I don't know if you can see them with this light, but they're a kind of like, you know, sort of a vast tract of pylons kind of marching across the landscape. I wonder what future generations will make of them. Strange gods walking the landscape, perhaps, or something like that. Lots of love to you. Take care.